Look around. Men working hard, yet moving in circles. Always tired, eyes dull, as if life drained something out of them. This isn't lack of effort, it's lack of direction for their vital energy. The truth? 97% waste this force every single day on little escapes. Only 3% have figured out that desire isn't a problem. It's a rare raw material that can be shaped into presence, clarity, and power. It's like having the latest smartphone but only using it to scroll endless feeds. Powerful but wasted. Once you learn to redirect your sexual energy, it stops being a spark that burns out in seconds and becomes the current that powers your entire life. What you think is making you weaker might actually be the key to unlocking your greatness. This video isn't about denying who you are or living in repression. It's about learning how to use a forgotten technology, conscious retention. Carl Jung once said sexual energy carries symbols of the unconscious and is the very source of creative power. That same energy can either trap you in addictions or free you to build a prosperous life. Men who practice this report real changes. Sharper clarity for financial decisions, social magnetism without trying too hard, confidence that doesn't come from canned lines, but from something deep in the body and mind. Small choices start creating big results. The gaze gets steadier, words carry more weight, presence gets noticed. And if you stick around until the end, you'll understand how to turn desire into creative, spiritual, and even financial energy. You'll see how this silent practice can place you among the 3% who don't need to shout to be noticed. You won't just control yourself, you'll learn how to command your own energy, and that changes everything. Have you ever felt that weird mix of being full on the outside but empty on the inside? You consume, you distract yourself, you chase quick pleasures, but when night falls, your mind won't shut up and your chest keeps asking for something more. It's like trying to cover a hole with smoke. Looks like it works for a second, but it vanishes right away. That's the silent struggle of so many men. This tug of war between wanting to grow and the habits that keep draining their energy without mercy. There's a force inside you that's not dirty or dangerous, no matter what you were taught. Quite the opposite. It's the raw material of your vitality, your creativity, even your spirituality. But here's the kicker. When you let it run wild, that same force turns into a prison, repeats the same shallow relationship patterns, and leaves scars of shame. Yet, when you learn to hold it, everything changes. You stop being just another body lost in the crowd and start becoming presence, influence, living magnetism. Want a simple test? Spend a week just noticing how you burn your energy each day. Not only on sex or adult content, but also in empty chatter, endless scrolling on social media, that desperate chase for approval. Write it down. You'll be shocked at how much goes down the drain. That alone already sparks awareness. It shows you exactly where the bucket is leaking, where your life force keeps slipping away. Another powerful move is transmutation. Instead of blocking your impulses, redirect them. Feel desire? Take a deep breath. Do a set of push-ups. Write down what you're feeling. Paint. Play an instrument. Sounds basic, right? But this swap literally rewires your brain. Little by little, you realize you don't have to be a slave to instant pleasure anymore. You start using that fire as fuel to build yourself up instead of burning yourself out. I've seen regular guys completely transform through this. Men who used to walk hunched over, lost, suddenly stood tall, eyes shining, pulling opportunities their way. Women looked at them differently, bosses paid closer attention, doors opened without effort. Not because they got richer or better looking, but because they carried something you can't buy: presence. And in a world drowning in distractions, presence is the real luxury. Think of this energy like a dam. Open the gates carelessly and it destroys everything in its path. But if you build turbines and guide the flow, it creates light, movement, and progress. The question that lingers is this: how long are you going to let that power spill out of control, instead of using it to light up the path of your own transformation? Most men live like cars that never run on a full tank. They wake up already tired, spend energy on little meaningless things, and by nighttime they reach for quick fixes. Adult content, social media, empty hookups. That short-lived relief is like fueling up with watered-down gas. It keeps the engine running for a while, but it slowly eats away at the car's power. In the end, they barely make it a few miles and wonder why they're always running on empty. Now picture a man who decides to save his energy instead of burning it on nonsense. He doesn't have to prove himself, doesn't need to raise his voice, doesn't chase validation with flashy stuff. His presence speaks louder than any speech. He's the kind of guy who walks into a room and everybody notices, even if they can't explain why. That magnetism doesn't come from expensive clothes or rehearsed lines. It comes from the energy he carries within. Silence that weighs more than noise. The contrast couldn't be clearer. It's like the difference between a car that's always running on fumes and another that's cruising with a tank full of premium fuel. The first one's constantly anxious, scanning for the next gas station, scared of breaking down. The second one drives with calm, knowing he can go far without rushing. Same with your energy. Wasted on instant pleasures and you're always chasing crumbs. Learn to cultivate it and you move forward with confidence. Carl Jung once said, "The body seeks pleasure, but the psyche seeks reconciliation." As long as you're stuck in satisfying only your instincts, you'll never feel whole. You'll keep tasting that emptiness no amount of pleasure can fill. What your soul is really asking for isn't more stimulation but integration between masculine and feminine, between shadow and light, between who you are and who you're meant to become. Without that, you're like a powerful car sitting idle in the garage. When you finally learn to reconcile those parts, something deep shifts. Desire stops being your enemy and becomes a bridge. It doesn't disappear. It transforms into fuel for creativity, presence, and purpose. Suddenly, the same impulse that once drained you in seconds starts generating clarity, strength, and natural magnetism. That's where quiet respect is born. Not because you demand it, but because people can feel the weight of who you are. And here's the choice staring you in the face. Keep fueling your life with pleasures that drain your vitality, or start cultivating the energy that turns you into living presence. The world doesn't need more men running around lost. It needs men who can actually steer their own journey. And if you want to dive deeper into Jung and this kind of energy, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment with your country. Your story might just inspire someone else. Look around and you'll see how the modern world is always chasing something. People say they're busy, but really, they're drowning in distractions, with no room left for silence or depth. It's like there's this constant urge to fill every single minute with noise, movement, and information. But when the day's over, what's left is that strange feeling. Everything felt intense, yet nothing truly meaningful happened. That's the paradox of modern life. Being overloaded with stimulation and still feeling empty inside. That emptiness doesn't come from a lack of things, but from an excess of them. When everything's fast, nothing gets deep. Life turns into a chain of tiny fireworks. They pop, they fade, and they leave no memory, no purpose. Modern man's gotten used to living like a tourist in his own life. Snapping pictures, posting moments, but never really experiencing what he's living. And that's where inner energy starts leaking away, wasted on things that evaporate without leaving a trace. The real secret is learning how to hold the energy. That means resisting the urge to burn it off right away and instead letting it build. At first, it feels uncomfortable, like pressure you're dying to release. But here's the twist. That very pressure is what creates power. Instead of opening the valve and dumping it all at once, you start holding and transforming it. That's what separates people stuck in endless loops from those who actually build something that lasts. In practice, you can take that force and channel it into art, writing, painting, making music. You can pour it into your body, training with discipline and waking up a vitality you thought was long gone. You can use it to start a business, dive deep into a subject you love, or explore spirituality. Every single time you hold back from wasting that impulse, you gain a chance to create. Energy doesn't just vanish. It changes form and starts working for you. Think about fire. Left wild, it burns everything in its path. But put it inside a fireplace, and it warms the house, gives light, and becomes a source of life. Your energy works the same way. Undirected, it's chaos. Contained, it's steady heat that sustains and attracts. The difference lies in how you choose to handle the flame. Like someone afraid of getting burned, or like someone who's learned to make it a home. At the end of the day, the emptiness haunting modern men isn't from a lack of energy, but from wasted energy. The key isn't chasing more intensity. It's learning to transform what's already within you. Once you get that, what used to feel like a burden turns into fuel, and what felt like emptiness becomes presence. That's the inner alchemy that opens the door to a life of depth, clarity, and real strength. Few people realize this, but real magnetism begins the moment you stop trying to convince anyone. It's almost like a hidden code. When you're no longer desperate to be seen, that's exactly when everyone starts noticing you. It's as if your energy shifts frequency. What used to be neediness turns into wholeness. You're no longer chasing looks or approval. You're holding an inner flame that warms without depending on outside validation. That's the code most never crack. And you can see it in practice. The guy who lives for validation is always showing off. Overposed pictures, rehearsed lines, flashy achievements. But the man who's learned to transmute his energy doesn't need any of that. He can sit quietly at a table, and people still lean in when he speaks. He can be in an ordinary meeting, and yet his ideas carry weight. It's like every gesture is packed with density, and that density can't be faked. Jung called this the transcendent function. When the opposing sides inside you stop fighting and start working together. Instinct is no longer the enemy of consciousness, but its ally. Sexuality stops being a curse and becomes a portal to expansion. And that's when the so-called coincidences start popping up. The right people, unlikely encounters, doors swinging open. Those are synchronicities. Life answering to your new vibration. It's not cheap magic, it's psychology in motion. You see it in real stories. A man who chose to hold his sexual energy for 90 days ended up writing an entire book. Something he once thought impossible. Another quit his addictions and suddenly started getting invited to better jobs. As if his new posture made space for new opportunities. That's no coincidence. When you change on the inside, you start sending invisible signals that draw in what once felt out of reach. The outer world simply reflects your inner frequency. This magnetism shows up in relationships too. When you're not dependent on female validation, your presence becomes authentic. Women sense it almost instinctively. You're not desperate for attention, and that creates natural respect. It's like standing in front of someone who doesn't have to prove anything, because he already is whole. That kind of man attracts not through performance, but through truth. And truth always carries a quiet power of attraction. Deep down, what you fear most, that intense desire that seems to control you, is actually what can set you free. It's not about killing it, it's about transforming it. Emptiness isn't failure, it's a calling. The energy you hold can either be your prison or your portal to expansion. When you bring body and spirit together, desire and purpose, you uncover the key to real magnetism. Not fabricated, not rehearsed, but alive. And the whole world responds to that new field. When people hear about semen retention, most think it's about repression or moral rules. But in truth, it's about alchemy. The difference is simple. Repressing is suffocating. Transmuting is redirecting. Think of fire, you can put it out, or you can place it inside a boiler and turn it into energy. Retention isn't about saying no to desire. It's about learning to transform that impulse into vitality, presence, and power. It's a practice of awareness, not of guilt. In the first 7 days, something subtle already shifts. Focus. It feels like your brain finally comes out of the fog. Tasks that used to feel dull now seem clearer, and your mind gains more discipline. By day 14, confidence grows. You notice your posture changing, your voice projecting with more strength, and your social interactions flowing more naturally. By 21 days, creative energy wakes up. Ideas spark, magnetism intensifies, and you begin to feel like you're carrying a force that sets you apart. Many men report practical signs. Their voice deepens, like it's coming from a more grounded place. Their gaze sharpens, transmitting strength without a single word. Social energy rises, and they can handle environments and interactions without feeling drained. It's as if the whole body comes alive, as if life itself starts circulating from the inside out. These are reflections of vital energy that's no longer being wasted. Science backs parts of this process. Studies show retention can temporarily raise testosterone levels, the hormone tied to vitality, motivation, and leadership. There's also evidence of cognitive benefits, like sharper memory and clearer thinking. On top of that, men report greater control when facing risks and temptations, not just sexually but in life decisions. Self-control in one area spills into others, creating a positive domino effect. The deepest point, though, is spiritual. This energy isn't just biological. It's life force. When you redirect it, it fuels your work, your art, your spirituality, and your leadership. Every drop you save becomes invisible fuel for your biggest projects. What used to be escape turns into presence. What used to be compulsion turns into clarity. You realize you can choose where your energy goes, and with that choice, you shape where your life goes. That's the real technology of retention. Not a prison, but a key to expansion. Each stage feels like unlocking a new level, revealing deeper layers of personal power. You start with focus, gain confidence, awaken creativity, and along the way discover magnetism and natural leadership. This journey isn't about holding back, it's about transforming. And in that transformation, you finally see it. Desire was never your enemy. It's always been your greatest source of strength. At the end of the day, your sexual energy was never the problem. It's always been a sacred portal, just misunderstood. Those who waste it stay stuck in emptiness, always tired, always trying to patch holes with instant pleasures. But those who learn to transform it discover a silent prosperity. Focus, creativity, magnetism, and inner peace. You now hold access to rare knowledge. This isn't about fighting yourself. It's about aligning with the power that's already within you. The very energy that once seemed to control you can become your greatest ally. It's the key to joining the small minority of men who walk with presence and purpose. And remember, it's not about how much effort you put in, but the quality of energy behind it. When you redirect what you already have, doors begin to open effortlessly. What once felt out of reach starts moving closer. What once felt impossible begins to feel natural. That's the difference between being driven by instinct and learning to drive your own life. If this message spoke to you, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. Tell me what country you're watching from and what topic you'd like me to cover in future videos. Your participation helps spread this message to more men who need to hear it.